Greetings, friends, and welcome to another Kids STEAM Crafternoon. Now, my name is Miss Aftan, and I am the children's librarian at the Alexander Hamilton Library here in Waynesboro. And I want to warn you, if you hear some hammering or sawing in the background of the video, it's because we're doing some construction while the library is closed, so exciting things are coming. But our focus today is our science, technology, engineering, art, and math activity. So today we're doing lots of really cool science stuff with a super easy project that is really simple to get set up, but the cool part happens over the next few days and over the next few weeks. So this is one that has a really cool long payoff. So let's see if you can guess what our activity and our inspirational story are today. So let's look at our supplies for today. All right, first we have a container of some sort. You'll also get squishy cotton balls. From our STEAM kit, we'll also give you a dowel rod. You can use a stick, and you don't even really need this. This is just for once your project starts to grow. At home, you'll also need a little bit of water, and you'll need to use a little bit of water every day. And last but certainly not least, today we need a bean. So with a container, water, cotton balls, and a bean, what do you think we might be doing today? Today, we're going to grow our own beanstalks. So if we're making our own beanstalks, what do you think our inspiration story might be? Yeah, this summer, let's celebrate with Jack and the Beanstalk. And let's do some cool STEAM stuff. So for Jack and the Beanstalk, there are lots of different variations of this story, but let's talk about a really simple version to get started with our activity today. Right? So usually the story starts with a boy named Jack who lives with his mom on their farm, and they are not very rich. In fact, they're pretty poor. And so their farm's not doing well, and they have one cow that they use for milk, but the cow stops giving milk. So Jack's mother tells him to take the cow to the market to sell, and when he does, he ends up trading the cow for some magic beans. Now, with the magic beans, some stories say that Jack plants them himself. Some they say that his mother throws the beans away because she's so upset. But what happens with those magic beans is overnight, a huge beanstalk grows from the beans, and it goes from Jack's farm way up into the clouds. And of course, Jack has to climb it. So when Jack climbs the beanstalk, he discovers a huge castle in the clouds at the top of the beanstalk. And when he crawls inside, he also finds a giant, a very hungry giant. And this giant's favorite treat is humans like Jack. So the giant says his famous lines, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman." And so while the giant is trying to find Jack, Jack is speedy and quick and tricky. And there are lots of different versions of what Jack does, but some of them end up with Jack stealing a goose from the giant that lays golden eggs. In some stories, he steals a magical harp that plays or sings itself. In some, he just steals a bunch of treasure. But either way, he takes what he finds and climbs down the beanstalk. But of course, the giant chases after him. Then when Jack gets down to the ground, they have to chop the beanstalk down. Then down comes the beanstalk, down comes the giant. And with all of their treasure, now Jack and his mother live happily ever after. So today we are going to be growing beanstalks of our own. Now they won't have treasure at the top, probably, but we're going to see the plant cycle itself at work. So we're going to take just a normal tiny bean and watch it grow into a full plant, which is pretty incredible and a treasure of its own. So are you guys ready to get started? All right, let's do it. Full steam ahead. Okay, so now it's time to start our baby beanstalks. So first, let's check our supplies one more time really quickly. First, you're going to need a bean of some sort. Now this is a dried French bean. All right, so this will grow a nice long bean pod. You can use one of these if you get a steam kit from us at the Waynesboro Library, but if you don't have a steam kit, you can use a bean from home. So you can use a lima bean, a black bean, pinto bean, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that it is a nice dry bean before you start. All right, that's where we're going to find our little baby bean inside. So we have our bean to start. Next, you need a big handful of cotton balls. All right, after that, you need some sort of clear container. Now, if you're using our steam kit from the library, you'll actually get a mostly clear Tupperware container like this. All right, this works fine. You can also use a clear cup. If you have a glass cup, that works well, or a glass jar. You could even, if you don't have anything else, use a clear plastic bag. That works fine too. Today I'm going to use my clear plastic cup. You'll also need some fresh water. Now I'm using mine in a spray bottle because it's a little easier to control how much water I use. You don't need a spray bottle as long as you're careful and just don't add a ton at once. Last, and this is an extra thing that you don't need if you don't have one, I just like to have a dowel rod so that once my bean starts growing and it gets nice and tall, it has something to help hold it up since my cup isn't that tall. So let's get started. All right, so today, first I'm going to take my baby bean and set it to the side, and now I'm going to get my cotton balls ready. So if I put them in my container as is, you can see that's a lot of cotton balls. All right, and they're kind of going over the top. So I'm actually going to take some out. I don't need quite this many. All right, so now our cotton balls are going to provide the nursery space for our bean to grow. So what's one thing that plants need to help them survive? We already listed it in our ingredients list. Do you remember? Yeah, we need some water. So what I'm going to do is with my spray bottle, I'm going to start spraying my cotton balls so they are nice and wet. But I don't want them to be so wet so that they start to drip and make a puddle in the bottom of my cup. So I'm going to keep adding some water, and you'll need to do this every day, add a little bit more water to help your bean keep growing. Now my cotton balls on top are really wet, but the cotton balls underneath are really dry. So I'm going to take my hands and just kind of squish them around. So I'll put those dry ones on top. I'll spray some more. If you don't like touching them, so if you don't like touching the wet cotton balls, you can even use your dowel rod or a spoon to mix them. But what we want is we want all of the cotton balls to feel wet without dripping. So if I kind of squish them, nothing's dripping out, which is good. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to push them down into the bottom of my container, and this is going to form my nursery for my bean. All right, so I'm turning it around looking for any really big holes. That's okay. And you can see that my cotton balls don't fill up my container completely. That's totally fine. As long as you have it filled around the bottom with enough space for your bean to be tucked inside, that's all you need. So this is nice and firm against the side. I'm actually going to add a little bit more water in here. And I'm sorry about construction sounds. We are doing some construction at the library while we're closed, so you might hear some hammering or sawing. All right, but I'm going to put my bean inside and then just very gently tuck it in by tucking those cotton balls against the side. All right, so remember, they're nice and wet without making puddles on the bottom. So now my bean is ready. It has a place to live. It has water to drink. All right, what else do you think my bean needs now to start growing? Yeah, it needs something to eat. So plants actually make their food from sunlight. So your next step is going to be to find a nice sunny place. It could be beside a window. It could actually be outside if you have a safe place that's protected from wind. But put this in a nice sunny place so that your baby bean can start growing. And now you can add your dowel rod right now, or you can wait until your bean starts growing. but we're going to just find a spot and I'm going to squish my dowel rod down in the middle. And this is for when your bean starts growing nice and tall. Because what is waiting inside your bean is a tiny baby called an embryo. So with your bean embryo, there's a stem and leaves and roots all waiting to come out. When your bean starts to get water and sunlight, and when it has a place to live, so usually this would be soil in the ground, but for beans, we can actually use cotton balls and watch them grow. What will happen is those roots will start coming down, and that stem and those leaves will start sprouting out. And your bean may start sprouting in as little as a day, which is pretty exciting. It might take a little bit longer for yours, but by the end of a week, you should see some growth. If you don't see anything by the end of a week, then your bean might be a dud and you might need to find a different bean. But pretty soon you should start seeing those sprouts coming up and your bean should start growing up out of your container, which is pretty cool. So all it takes is a bean, which is our seed, a place to live, which could be soil, or in this case, our cup with cotton balls. We need water and sunlight. And then our bean will germinate, which means that it starts that growing process and it'll start growing to be nice and strong. And perhaps your bean will have a magical castle with treasure at the top of it. Perhaps it'll just have some bean pods. Either way, it's pretty cool and pretty exciting. So we hope that you enjoyed our STEAM Crafternoon activity for today, and we hope that we will see you next week as we make our castle catapults. Don't forget that we do have a secret word, so make sure to check the description for how you can get that word today. And check our comments today, because one of our goals for this spring was to start a kids' garden, a children's garden at the library. And because of COVID-19, we couldn't do that together. But I went ahead and did some planting of my own with watermelon, pumpkin, zucchini, sweetie tomatoes, lettuce, flowers, carrots, all kinds of stuff. And it is growing like crazy back behind the library. So make sure that you check our comments today, because we're going to have some pictures in that on the Alexander Hamilton Facebook page. Pretty exciting stuff. All right, so we hope that we'll see you next week, friends. Have a great day. Bye.